This is the Depth Mystic Community Podcast, episode 18. I'm the host, Zach Tollen, and this is the theme song. Okay, so let's bring on our guest, Jungian depth mystic Zach Tollen. Hi, how are you? What kind of question do you have for us today? This week's topic is what I'm calling public not knowing, or responsible public not knowing. Okay. So what do you mean by that? Well, basically, I don't always know what to do with my life or what to make a podcast episode about. And this is a kind of ignorance that I normally find embarrassing. But then I have other thoughts about how there's nothing else I could have done. I'm in exactly the situation I have to be in. And so I don't know what the episode's going to be about. Well, except that you do know what it's about. It's about the fact that you don't know what it's about. Well, yeah, exactly. And so I'm wondering, what your initial response to that is. What do you think first about somebody who doesn't know necessarily what they should make a given episode about? And then secondarily, what do you think about that issue as the topic for today? What do I think about not knowing? And then what do I think about you making this episode about not knowing? Yeah, you can go in either order. I assume you would have to answer the first one first. Well, first of all, it strikes me as kind of sad that you don't know what to make the episode about. If I was going to write a story, one of the things I would need would be a conflict. And if you don't know what the episode is about, that is a kind of conflict. Although it's kind of the most self-confessional story I've ever heard. You're starting the episode by saying that you don't know what it's supposed to be about. Well, technically, I started by saying that it's about the general idea of not knowing. Public, responsible not knowing was my official thing. Okay, let's just stick to the question, which is what do I think of, you not knowing what the episode's going to be about? I said at first it's sad. And also, we have a left brain, right brain problem here. Because the left brain is very categorical and it has ideas about what things ought to be. The left brain is yang and the right brain is yin. The yin is the be here now idea about life. And insofar as we don't want to get too far away from our yin by having a predetermined list of everything that needs to be done. And insofar as we're worried about not staying close to reality, I can approve of saying I'm not going to spend that much time trying to figure out what we're going to do in advance. If you don't know what you're going to talk about in a given episode, or you don't know where the conversation is going to go, I would say you're taking a yin approach to the performance, or an improvisational approach, jazz, as opposed to classical. And there's nothing really wrong with that, especially if you have a lively mind and one or two or three animated characters who can be expected to say surprising things from time to time, even if they don't start with an idea of what they're going to talk about. But that being said, I think we can all recognize the value of a little yang, a little bit of knowing what the hell you're trying to do. Well, yeah. And that's why I had the title be Responsible, Public, Not Knowing. And I actually have a meaning behind that. Well, I'd say that's strange because public, responsible, not knowing. Yang is the knowing of the thing that you want to do. And your yang suggests a public declaration of not knowing what you want to do. That somehow it's your responsibility to publicly confess that you don't know what to do. You are correct, Jungian depth mystic Zach Tollen. That was what I meant. And I have a reason for saying it too, because the reason I finally got to the place where I could start this podcast is because I had resolved within myself that I was not the problem. That I had no more work to do on my inner self before I could deserve or have the right or even the duty to begin talking. I'm prone to self-examination and a corresponding kind of shame that makes me want to self-examine rather than just step out blindly onto the stage and just make a fool of myself. I must have some kind of really bad fear of making a fool of myself. And so that's why it took me so long to start my podcast. Because I wanted to iron out all of the wrinkles of my inner shame and guilt. To do a full examination of, was it my fault that I didn't know what to do? That I didn't necessarily know what the meaning of life was? That I didn't know exactly how to proceed? Even having had such a profound mystical vision that you'd think somebody like a prophet would come back from the wilderness knowing exactly what to do, maybe. You know, if somebody gets hit by a lightning bolt and God gives them a whole bunch of information, you might think they would know exactly what to do. Well, actually, as a Jungian depth mystic, that's exactly what happened to me. And you're right. When I came back from that experience, my mind was stable, but my knowledge of how to proceed in society was almost non-existent. And so I totally understand what it might feel like to not know how to proceed, even in spite of having been bestowed by some kind of cosmic wisdom. There's still all sorts of things where you don't know exactly how to bring that wisdom right into the moment and to choose projects and work and all that. So I get it. The thing is, though, there's a lot of justified reasons for not knowing what to do or how to do it. Like, the world isn't all that structured. Society isn't out there giving you a perfect list of things that make you a good person, and all you have to do is conform to that list, and now you're a good person. You're not necessarily going to know what you're supposed to do. As a rule, given the state of society, it's actually okay to not know what you're doing. So the question is, how long can you not know what you're doing before it's actually okay to go public with that? That's what I mean by the topic. At some point, you can actually just step onto the stage of the world and say, hi, on the one hand, I have a podcast. On the other hand, I don't know what to make the episode about. At a certain point, it's actually your duty to do that. You're only being responsible by doing that. And the reason is that you're not the only one who doesn't know what to do. And this phenomenon of not knowing what to do, this self-questioning, this dark night of the soul, this wondering what the meaning of life is, or just how to proceed in a more narrow way. No matter what the specifics of the not knowing what to do, you might actually be experiencing the life of your species, the life of humanity. That might be an archetypal experience. Oh, archetypal. I like archetypes. Anyone with the word Jungian in their title likes the word archetypes. And I'll just go ahead and clarify what I assume you mean by it, which is that the inner experience of human beings has to be expressed publicly in the form of art and literature and music and film and just every kind of art. And this sort of sanctifies and makes legitimate the experiences that people are having inwardly. So an artist, by putting the right words to a thing, can make that kind of experience legitimate. Suppose you have a hit song or a hit movie because you're actually speaking to the experience of a lot of people. And the producers of a hit song, they might not have known it was going to be a hit song. But it turns out you're revealing the actual experience of many people in that society. The point is, there's a certain responsibility that artists have for giving expression to what's on their mind. Okay, that's my thing. That's what got triggered when you just said archetypes. Yeah, okay, well, thanks for that little interlude. I don't know if I'm an artist. You could call me an artist, but at least in this particular case, the inner experience that we're having is this not knowing. And insofar as it might be like a universal experience, like an archetype of the collective unconscious, then maybe it's your duty to go out and say, you don't know what to make the episode about. Not only is it okay and not shameful to not know what you're doing, but it's your responsibility to publicly declare that you don't know. And that takes a lot of confidence. As the podcast host, that takes a lot of confidence to look into myself and say, is it my fault that I don't know what I'm doing? Is that my fault? And if I conclude that no, it's not, then maybe this is a kind of general experience that is part of the whole. The type of experience anyone could have in the society that we live in. And you need to give people the feeling that it's okay to not know. Anyway, all I have to say is that I wanted to make it an official value of the podcast. That it's okay to not know where to go. And sometimes it's your responsibility to publicly declare that you don't know. Okay, as Mystic, I would say, I think I get your idea, and I think it's an okay topic. It's sort of like shameless exteriorization of your true interior state. And people might relate to that interior condition. And it remains funny that there's like a perpetual desire to feel shame about not knowing what you're doing, even when you've actively justified publicly confessing it. So it's simultaneously shameful and praiseworthy. What else is there to say? Well, Jungian depth mystic Zach Tollen, there's nothing left to say. That's the end of the episode. If you want to leave a comment, I have a Facebook group and a Discord server that prove that this is a community podcast. Until next week, Zach Tollen signing off.